Good evening, everyone. So happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation. That's many of you. From here, it's a different view. So when Greg invited me, and I remember that was like 2 weeks ago on a Tuesday evening, and when Greg invited me to this event, I immediately got excited because I love the idea of speaking about failure. Culturally speaking, and I think not only in Romania, but generally, we are taught since we are children that we need to be successful for some reason. So speaking about failure in front of so many people, I think it's innovative, and I celebrate the fact that finally we are having the courage to speak openly about our failures. And what Greg doesn't know is that moving forward on Wednesday morning, I panicked. And I said, I'm going to call him. I'm going to tell him, like, I'm not going to do this. So, which I didn't, obviously, but the fear paralyzed me for a moment. And, you know, you start thinking, like, 15 minutes in front of 200 people, it can be dramatic, and it can be a failure. Then I remembered all my failures along the last 20 years, and I realized, like, we all do that, like, pretty much maybe on a daily basis or weekly basis. We just don't say it out loud. That's all, pretty much. So maybe learning how to say that out loud, it's part of the game. And admitting that we are failing, and that's perfect, actually, if that makes sense. So I think every one of us already failed multiple times, most probably. But I think failing is pretty much like learning how to fail is pretty much like learning any other skill. So it takes practice, right? If you're not practicing, you don't know how that feels, and you don't know what you can learn from it. And it can be anything from little as failing an exam in school up to as frustrating as not being able to close a business deal or not land that promotion, or even worse. Right? And we are not just referring to the failings in our professional life, but generally speaking in our whole life. Now, I most probably failed more times than I recall, but tonight I would like to share with you the failure that happened almost probably 20 years back that actually changed completely my life, and I am today who I am and what I am because of that failure, which actually, now looking back, it was not, it was a disguise. So I loved history all my life, and back in school, back then, I was pretty good at Romanian literature and grammar. Now, if you recall, back in the days, and I'm not sure now, those were the two curriculums that actually were the two exams that you have to undertake in order to get into the law university. I wanted to be a lawyer. I don't know why. I still love lawyers, by the way, just for the record. And I wanted to be a lawyer. So I said, okay, that makes sense. I was attending general competitions, national competitions. I was winning some in both curricula, so I said it makes sense. So I did. I subscribed for the exams. I went there. What I didn't do in the meantime, I did not prepare, because I was arrogant enough to think that having the experience, the expertise, and the proven track record, that basically, that's it, right? You don't need to prepare anymore. You don't need to do anything in particular. So I kind of failed in preparing, and I went to the exam. I took a maximum mark for the history exam, but then for the grammar one, I didn't. So as one does not compensate the other, I failed miserably, and I was completely terrified to go home and tell my parents how I won't become a lawyer, not knowing exactly how my life is going to look like. And obviously when you're 18, and I know now looking back it sounds hilarious, but when you're 18, you think your life is over. And I thought that. I literally thought that, leaving aside the shame and, you know, the feelings when my parents looked at me like, you didn't prepare, what did you expect? Like, that's the reality. I think it was a lesson of humbleness, if you ask me, or this is the way I look at it, a lesson of humbleness, and also how to set your priorities in life. I mean, it's not enough to want something, but is it attainable? Is it achievable? And this is what I want practically to talk to you tonight, is the link between failure, perfectionism, and resilience. Because I am proud to say I'm a perfectionist in recovery for the last 15 years, probably. I'm still working on that. But just to put the context in, I still remember, I think I was 8 or 9 years old. I still remember a dancing competition. I won the second place. I mean, second place is good, right? It's good. Well, not for me. So just imagine a mini me sitting in a corner, frustrated, upset, and, you know, blaming everybody, my mom, the dress, the jury, pretty much everybody but myself. And then I took a look at the kid who won the third place. And it was a boy. And if the dictionaries would have pictures, his picture should be placed near the word joy, because he was literally jumping around of joy on the stage, spending 5 or 10 minutes telling everyone how he won. And he was not mentioning the place, but he said, I won. And he was literally like, I will be the best dancer in the world. I was looking at him like, what did he won? He won almost nothing. Like, why is he so happy about? I'm miserable. Why is he happy? And I think looking back, obviously I didn't get it back then. When you get an adult, you understand that winning is winning. And winning a second or a third place, it's not a failure. So I think the perception of failure sometimes is wrong in our heads and comes from the, what I like to call expectations management, what we do with ourselves. And it comes from two perspectives: the expectations that we have from ourselves and the expectations that we believe, and let me accentuate, we believe what others are expecting from us. Because what I found out in my last 10 to 15 years is that we don't know what people are expecting from us unless we ask them, and we do that cross-check. Sometimes we believe the bar is here, and it's not. It might be a bit lower. It might be not lower, but feasible, more feasible, making more sense. But we are the ones, by not checking with ourselves and by not checking with the others, who are raising the bar sometimes, let's say, in a useless way. So it's an expectation. It's like, if you want, we are using the Pareto model in our professional life, and not only. And perfectionists are, well, they tend to misuse it. Like we tend to spend 80% of our effort in order to generate 20% of the results, when, you know, that doesn't serve us, actually. So instead of going for the perfection, instead of going for that achievement that is the highest of them all, and looking for that perfection, I always say, and I teach my teams, and I teach myself, because I'm still teaching myself, to set realistic goals, to check the goals and align them again. Goals, dreams, targets, you can apply to anything from professional to the personal spectrum. But I think when we do this quick checkman, it's like the business plan. It's like the budget. If you're not adapting the budget and the business plan to the reality of the first trimester and the second month and the April one and so on, it's not going to work, right? Because the business, and not just the business, but life, it's dynamic. So setting achievable goals will help you to not feel like a failure, like failing all the time. And there's another catch. Sometimes we are not giving ourselves enough time to achieve those goals. So we are running around towards the targets, forgetting that sometimes we just need time. And I've seen successful people that they needed like 20 years. And when you say 20 years, it's like it's a lifetime. It's a lot. Well, it is. But that's the reality. You cannot achieve that success in 2 years, because it's not sustainable. It's simply, you don't have the background, you don't have the failures, you don't have the knowledge to reach there. So you just need to give yourself time. And there's another thing that I've learned on my own regarding failure. I think we forget to have that gratitude for where we are in the day we are. And we are either living in the past, saying that company that I worked for 10 years ago, it was far better than this one. Or you know, that country it's better than the other one, or that experience it's better than the other one. But I think having that gratitude and not looking to the past, just it's the past, we learn our mistakes, we learn our lessons, we took our knowledge, but not looking in the future with that grip, like it's only the future that counts, and I will be happy and fulfilled only in 20 years from now when I will have the target achieved. I think the key or the trick is to live the day and be grateful for where we are, for what we are. Is it family? Is it children? Is it a new car? Is it a great promotion? Is it a job? Whatever makes us be more fulfilled. And I like to also say that looking at failure with a bit of humor, it helps. And why I say that, because you know, during my professional life, I missed many things, and I missed like KPIs, targets, contracts, you name it, pretty much, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. But sometimes looking at the situation or at myself with a bit of humor and, you know, have a cappuccino, I know that's not very French, but, you know, Greg will forgive me. I think it makes the failure itself, if it is a failure again, it makes the failure itself lose its importance. Because it's not such a big of a deal. You go for a glass of wine with your friends, you complain about life, you learn your mistakes if there is the opportunity to do that, and that's it. You move on. You're not sitting in that failure for a long time. So humor is the key. I would like to say a couple of things also as a learning opportunity, because failure should, and I think the speakers before me, they said that, and I think it's very important to reiterate the fact that failing, it means learning. And it means learning by doing, and there is no book of perfection, and we are aware that we are invited most of the time to speak about our successes. And it is a first for me as well to speak about my failures. And I think speaking about the perfection that does not exist actually, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I think it should be balanced, a bit more balanced, because when you stop, and this coming from a perfectionist, when you stop looking for perfection, when you realize that human and perfection, they simply just don't go hand in hand, the decisions that you take in life are far easier. And I can tell you why. Because I was paralyzed of the failure fear, and because I wanted the perfection, I didn't take opportunities that were in front of me, and I didn't take decision. I think one of the speakers talked about the procrastinating things, and yes, I'm guilty as that, as charged, because I've always said, like, I'm not ready, or I will wait for a perfect moment, or I will wait for a perfect opportunity or environment. And that's just simply, it's not benefiting, because when you're not looking for perfection anymore, you're basically looking for balance. The decisions are far easier. Like, you live the day, you take a decision, you take the accountability if the decision is maybe not the correct one, and you move forward. It's like, if you want to paraphrase it, it's like having an exam, because I was starting with that theme, and you score 95% and out of 100, so you passed, but you are mortified about the 5%, so you should have waited another 3 years until you can score 100%. And in the meantime, you kind of don't enjoy and don't celebrate the fact that you achieved an important exam in your life. Let me close with a story that is very dear to my heart, and I think hopefully you're going to enjoy it. So maybe 1 year ago, let's say it was not my highest day altogether, and I had a coffee and a chat with my best friend, and I complained about pretty much anything in my life. I don't think I missed an area, actually. That was a lot. But, you know, saying the regular things like how I took wrong decisions in life. And by the way, just as a bracket, there are no wrong decisions. They are the decisions that you take in that very moment with the information that you have. That's it. And we are not perfect. So I was telling him, I did so many things wrong. There's so many failures. And I went on and on for a while, and he listened carefully, and then he looked at me and said, look, I don't know what's wrong with you today, but let me tell you something. You are not a failure, and I believe in you, and I certainly believe that you can do anything in this life. And there are people who are looking up at you. So you have a responsibility for yourself, for the last 20 years of yourself that you worked, and you have a responsibility for them, towards them. I literally crumbled for 30 seconds because it was a very strong, powerful, and warm message in the same time. And 30 seconds later, I really felt that I can do everything, like even flying a plane, which I won't, so we are all safe, but I thought I can. So I encourage us all to look at failure in a different way. Like, maybe let's teach our children that failure is normal. Maybe tell them or teach them to not compete with others, but rather compete with themselves, because I think it's far more healthier. Let's celebrate the failures. We all learn from them, willingly or not, realizing it or not. In that very moment or 3 years later, we are all learning from them. So I would say, let's stumble and fall, dust our knees, learn the lessons, and just move on. And find a friend like mine. And if you cannot find, I can borrow him.